All right, so for recording purposes, we're starting the basics in these subjects. And here's the little storyline, right? You have just finished writing your CSEC exam, so it's a little, it's set in the future, and you have decided to use your helium airship, that's your helium airship there, to explore the world. You're going to pretend that you live in Palm Island in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And anybody here from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you will know Palm Island, right? Let me know in the chat. And you tell your parents, see you in a year, mom and dad. And of course, they're excited to see you leave because now they have the whole house to themselves. All right, so that's the storyline for today's class. Okay. So most of you all know our protagonist of our lectures, Jibby, who is a dim-witted person and usually is known for saying the wrong things about anything. He's the last person you try to seek advice from. So here we have an albatross. And in the yellow comic bubble, he says, "Hey, Jibby, can you explain to me why both a rock and a virus is not alive?" Now, if you all remember anything from the free summer program, I mentioned that a virus is different from a bacteria. Now, that's the first thing I want to clear up, right? A virus and a bacteria are both very, very small, and we usually associate viruses and bacteria with making people sick. Well, which is true. A lot of virus and a lot of bacteria do make people sick. And both of them are very, very small. They're microscopic. But a virus and a bacteria are very, very different. When you put them underneath the microscope and you go through their DNA and whatnot, you're going to realize that they're very, very different. A virus is considered not alive. Now, I know a virus can move and float around and invade your body, but by scientific definitions, a virus is not alive. Being able to move and infect your body is not enough to call something alive. For example, a robot can move, a small robot, a nano robot can go inside of your body, but is a robot considered alive? No. So being able to move does not make something alive. But a bacteria, on the other hand, by scientific definitions, is considered alive. And we all know a rock is not alive, clearly. But what does old GB have to say to the albatross? Oh, poor brainless Albert. It's a good thing you asked old GB. Actually, a virus, aka a bacteria, are alive and rocks are not alive. So GB is making a classic mistake here. He is first of all thinking that a virus and a bacteria is the same thing. That's clearly wrong. And he's clearly wrong because he's associating a virus with being alive. So let's move on to the next slide. There's nothing to take down here. This is just to set the piece of the discussion. A lot of you all will have met this over the summer. For something to be considered alive, it has to do these 7 things. And there's a little acronym to remember it. Something called Mrs. Gren. All living things must display some sort of movement. It must do this thing called respiration. In case you don't know what respiration is how an organism produces energy. All living things must produce energy. You have a mechanism inside of your body that helps you produce energy. And why do you need energy? Well, you need energy to do your daily activities like running, jumping, even eating, even making your heart beat or breathing takes energy. Without energy, all living things would die. Sensitivity. All living organisms display some sensitivity. Sensitivity is how an organism reacts to the environment. All living things react to the environment. For example, a very, very simple case. If I were to take a pin and choke you, right? Or press it against you, right? Won't you react? Well, first of all, you might get angry and punch me in the face, right? But you've one anymore, and that's what a reaction to the environment. When the place gets very, very, very hot, won't you begin to sweat more? Your body is reacting to the environment. Even plants. Don't plants move towards the sunlight? Like if you have a dark room and you have a window, right? Well, a covered room and a window, and the sun is shining through. The plants will gradually grow slowly towards the window where the sunlight is. All living things must react to the environment, better known as sensitivity. The next one is growth. All living things must grow. That's easy to visualize, and I'm going to spend too much time on that. All living things must also be able to reproduce, to create or try to create copies of itself. Human beings, parents have children. That's a reproduction process. Excretion. All living organisms, while they are living, they create waste, right? A lot of people associate waste with going to the washroom. That's not the only type of waste. Your body creates, while it's living, a lot of toxic substances inside of it. Now, we're not going to go in detail of all the different toxic substances a living organism creates. That's for later down. You just have to keep in the back of your head. All living organisms create toxic substances. And do you think, right? Do you think it's a good idea for an organism to keep all of those toxic things inside of it? No, it has to get rid of it. The process of getting rid of all your toxic substances is called excretion. And without excretion, the toxic substances will build up inside of your body. And then you what? Die, right? And the last one is all living things must get nutrition. It must have a way of getting nutrition inside of its body. Human beings eat. That we put food in our mouth, nutrition in our mouth, and we eat it. So that's how we get nutrition in our body. Now, not all living things have a mouth, like plants. Plants get nutrition by what? A process called photosynthesis, or it uses its roots to absorb nutrients from the soil. Now, here's the question, right? Or one small thing. Someone said I forgot something called irritability. Irritability and sensitivity is the same thing. Some textbooks will say irritability, and some textbooks will say sensitivity. It's the same thing. Quick question. If I find a new organism, let's say I'm an explorer, so I put on my Dr. Livingstone hat and I go through the forest, and I find a brand new substance, a brand new thing that nobody else has ever seen before, and it displays movement, sensitivity, reproduction, excretion, and respiration. Is this new thing considered to be alive? Because it has 7 requirements to be alive, and I got 5 out of the 7 when I investigated this new organism. Is it considered to be alive? The answer is no. For something to be alive, it must display all 7, not 5, not 6. It's all 7 or nothing. It's literally that strict, right? All 7 or nothing, right? It missed 1, it's dead. It's considered by scientific literature or scientific, rules that it's dead. Now, I know a lot of you all have this note already. I want you to take it back down again, right? I take a 5 minutes, and it's the thing about it, it's good to repeat notes over and over. You see, when you write down something, it sticks in your head, right? Please don't screenshot it. If I want you to screenshot something, I will make it very, very, very clear. So everyone get started, 5 minutes, and we'll be moving on to more interesting things in a little while. But, right, so next slide. So let's see what's going on here with Jibby and the albatross. So the albatross says, hey, Jibby, I think you are, oh, sorry, let's go to Jibby first. Biologists are so dumb. They said that a cell is the smallest thing, but I have just found smaller things inside of a cell. In case you all are not familiar what cells are, right? If you take any part of your body and put it underneath a very, very powerful microscope, this is basically what you will see. You all see things like individual parts. Here, the individual parts that make up your entire body are called what? Cells. Now, whether you put an animal, like, well, human beings are considered animals, right? Whether you put an animal or a plant underneath a very powerful microscope, you are going to see cells. Now, animal cells look slightly different, not slightly different, I would say different than plant cells. Now, what GB is saying is wrong. Are cells the smallest thing? No, if you look at these things, if you look properly, let's look inside. If this is a cell here, if you look carefully, this whole thing is one cell. But don't you all see smaller parts living inside of a cell? It comes like a house. From space or from very high up in the atmosphere, a house will look like like something small. And it will be easy to say, well, a house is the smallest thing. But if you zoom in to inside a house, you will see that the house is made up of smaller parts, like a bathroom or a kitchen. So what GB is saying is wrong. A cell is small, don't get me wrong, but inside of a cell, you will see smaller things inside of it. Anybody can remember what's the general name for the smaller things that are found inside of a cell? So somebody said, two people sent the answer even before I asked the question. What are the smaller things found inside of a cell? It's called organelles. Now, do not mix up the word organelles with organs. I'm fed up of seeing people mix up these two words. I think everybody at least has a general idea of an organ. An organ, an example of an organ is the heart. Your heart is an organ. Your brain is an organ. Your kidney is an organ. Organs are usually large. Organelles are smaller parts of a cell. So organelles are seriously, seriously smaller than organs. And even though the words resemble, they are nowhere close to being the same. All right. Now, what scientists say is very close to what GB is saying. Remember, scientists never said that a cell is the smallest thing, you know. They never said that. Scientists or biologists said a cell is called the smallest functional unit of life, because it is capable of carrying out all the life processes. Let me break that down into simple terms. Is one cell in your body. By the way, your body is made up of trillions and trillions of cells stuck together. Is one cell considered to be alive? Yes or no? And that's a very, very important question. Is one cell considered to be alive? And the answer is yes. One cell is considered to be alive. Why? Because a cell can do all 7 things. Remember on the last slide, we said for something to be alive, it had to do all 7 things. Sensitivity, reproduction, all of those things. So if I were to extract one cell from your body, you would realize that one cell can do all 7 things from the last slide. So, but can the individual parts inside of it, let me say we go inside the cell and we take out this part. Obviously, most of you all don't know the names of all the parts of a cell, right? But if I were to go and take out an organelle, one organelle from inside the cell, would that one organelle be considered alive? Yes or no? Would the one organelle be considered to be alive? The answer is no. Organelles are not considered to be alive. One organelle cannot do all 7 things. An organelle might be able to do 2 out of the 7 or 1 out of the 7, but it cannot do all 7. However, if you put different organelles inside of the cell, when you add up all the things each individual organelle is doing, you realize together or collectively, they can do all 7, but individually, they cannot do all 7, right? It's like having a company. Like if you have, let me say this is your company, right? Yeah, you make, let me say you make cars in that company. Can the whole company is considered alive? But let me say we have one worker, John. Do you think John can do everything in that company? You think he could put on the machinery, put on wheels, he can do the electrical in the car, inspect the cars? No. But he's like an organelle. He cannot do everything. But if you get other workers like John and Susan and Jake, I don't know where I'm getting these names from, right? John will be able to do something different. Susan has different skills. Jake has different skills. So when you put all of them together, they can make the company run. And the whole company is called a cell. The individuals are called organelles. All right. So what I need for you all to do is just take down the note in blue. Nothing else. Nothing else. Let me know when you are finished. Oh, well, let's take a little brain relaxer here. So we're on our journey. And our first stop in our helium airship. We first stop in Richmond, but I have some grammatical errors here, obviously. Your first stop, no, it's good. Your first stop is Richmond Bay, Union Island in St. Vincent. Where do you all want to look for treasure? You always see the little diagram there. You want to look in the yellow area, the green area, red, or blue. Choose one area and let's see if you get lucky. Whatever you find, make sure and write it down. It's going to be real important. Keep track of everything you find because you're going to get a chance of using it later on to make the class fun, right? A lot of people are going with the yellow area. So search. Where would you want to search for treasure? You can only choose one area. For those who search in the green area, you find a red crab. Write down exactly what you got there. The red area, you get nothing. Yellow, you get a blue fish. On the blue, you got a blue crab. Write down the exact name. If it's a red crab, put red crab. If you get a blue fish, make sure and write blue. Don't worry, you're gonna be able to do something with these items. All right, so let's get ready to move on. Sorry for those who got red. Apologies, apologies. All right. So this here is a diagram of a cell. Now, to save some time in class, right? Now, this usually takes a lot of time to draw. So I'm not going to make you draw this right now. I'm just going to ask you to take a screenshot. And also, right, I could upload this to the school website because to draw this will take, to draw it neatly, keywords neatly, you're going to need about 10 to 15 minutes. But I just want to talk about these two things, and then, I'll give you a chance to screenshot it and whatnot, So remember earlier I mentioned that there are two types of cells. Animal cells, which are found in animals like, well, monkeys, sharks, well, human beings, we are considered animals, like I said, and plants. You can clearly see an animal cell and a plant cell look different. Just to clear up one question, no, these googly eyes are not part of the cell. I just put them there to make it look more friendly. All right, cells don't have eyes. So there are a lot of similarities between an animal cell and a plant cell. You all will see that both a plant and animal cell have what? Something called a nucleus. The nucleus is like the boss of the cell. He controls everything that goes on in the cell. He's like the brain of the cell. He tells everybody what to do. He's boss, right? So all cells, well, all plants and animal cells must have a nucleus. Now, inside your nucleus, whether it's an animal cell or a plant cell, you all will see something called chromosomes or DNA. Even if you don't know what a chromosome or a DNA is, I know everyone here has heard the term DNA because everyone here has seen, I assume, Jurassic Park. Am I right? Everyone at least has heard the term name called DNA in Jurassic Park. All right. So you don't have to make any notes right now. You're just listening, and sometimes it's just good to listen. You don't have to retain everything. You'll get everything in writing eventually. What's a basic explanation of what DNA is? Well, DNA is basically what makes you look and behave like you. Everybody here is different. Everybody has a different type of nose, a different type of ears, different type of eyes. The shape of your face is obviously different, right? Everybody, heart and lungs are slightly different. What determines how you are created? It's your DNA. Your DNA is the instructions that tell your body how to create itself or how to chisel itself or how to make itself. And because everybody DNA is different, the instructions to make yourself is different. So that's why everybody comes out looking different. Even twins, you might say twins look exactly the same, but twins have different DNA. On the surface, they might look the same, but the internal organs within the twins are going to be slightly different. So I just want to clear that up because that's usually the number one question I get about DNA. Do twins have the same exact DNA? No. All right, great. No two people on the earth have the same exact DNA. Now, there's another part of the cells called the mitochondria. Both animal cells and plant cells have a mitochondria. What do mitochondria do? Anybody wants to tell me on the chat here? I know some of you all did this already, so take the opportunity to show off. What does a mitochondria do within a cell? Right. It creates energy. Remember, right now you have energy. I know it's Saturday morning and you probably don't have much energy because you had a hard week. But for your body to create energy, it needs something called a mitochondria. And inside every cell is this thing called a mitochondria. Without it, you will not be able to create energy to come to class today and pay attention. All right. Another thing is called a ribosome. Just to give you an idea of what a ribosome is, I'm gonna say two words and I want you all to fill in the missing word. Carbohydrates, fats, and what's missing? There's three things when you're eating that that you need in big portions: carbohydrates, fats, and well, not fiber. It starts with the letter P. Protein, right? Now, protein is very, very important for your body, not to only build muscle. A lot of people, when you say the word protein, they think building muscle, or they think athletes, and they think bodybuilders. I mean, that is partly true. To build muscle for strength, you need proteins, right? Um, but you need protein for almost every other thing in your body. Your eyes, every single tissue in your body, your nose, your eyes, your ears, every part of your brain needs protein. Proteins is like a building block for everything in your body. And guess which part of your cell creates all of those proteins? Mr. Ribosomes. So without ribosomes, well, you will die, because if you can't create protein to build everything in your body, you will just probably turn into a pile of dust. Okay? Right. And the other thing, all of these things are floating around inside a liquid. The name of that liquid is the cytoplasm, right? The kind of bluish liquid is called your cytoplasm. And inside animal cells, it have these small little bubbles. It's kind of hard to see. These are called vacuoles, not vacuole. That's how I say it to spell it, but it's called a vacuole. Do you all see any differences right now on the screen between the animal cell and the plant cell? Like, just give me a couple differences from just looking at it. Well, what's the major difference between an animal cell and a plant cell? They have plenty similarities. They all have ribosomes, they have cytoplasm, both have a nucleus, both have a mitochondria, both have DNA, but there are subtle differences between the two. One, right, McDonald, they are shaped differently. An animal cell is kind of circular, but a plant cell is more rectangular, or it has a more definite shape, right? Right. One thing is that an animal cell has a cell wall. You notice it have this green thing around it, this green solid thing around it. You call that a cell wall. Also, if you look carefully, the vacuole is much, much larger, right? The vacuole here, look at the size of the vacuole in an animal cell. It's small, and in a plant cell, it's large. The vacuole actually helps to give the plant cell its shape. It helps to hold it up. It's like a big bubble inside of it that holds up the plant cell to give it a shape. Don't get me wrong, eh? The cell wall also helps with the shape, but both the vacuole and the cell wall help with the shape of the plant cell. And also, plants have this thing called chlorophyll and chloroplast. The chloroplast is like a container that contains a liquid called chlorophyll. Plants can create their own food, and they need something called chlorophyll to make that food. One thing I failed to mention is that both the plant and animal cell, you'll see a kind of dashed line going around the animal cell. Look at it carefully. That's called your cell membrane. The plant cell also has a dashed line, a cell membrane. The cell membrane is like a barrier. It's like the security system of the cell. It tells who can go into the cell and who can come out of the cell. So it's like a security door. The things just can't leave the cell just so or come into the cellar. It has to go up to the security and say, hey, I could come into the cell today, or say, hey, I'm feeling tired. I want to go outside, right? So the cell membrane controls who goes in or leaves the cell. For those who want to take a screenshot, right, can do so right now. So someone asked a question about the starch grain. I have a starch grain in this diagram. I'm not seeing a starch grain in this diagram. But anyway, a starch grain, if you go into your textbook and you see a starch grain, starch is actually in a cell. A lot of the time, when a cell has extra nutrients, a specific type of nutrient, it stores it as a starch grain for future use. But we'll get into that later. That's kind of, I don't want to get too distracted with that right now, right? But that's my short answer to the question. More than enough time to do a screenshot. Right. This is the part you're going to have to write down. I'm going to ask you all to write this back down. Like I already give my reasons why I want you to write things down, even though you have it somewhere else. You want your notes to be in a certain order and a certain place within your other notes. Take my advice. Before you write it down, right? I want you all to read through everything. Everything that I just said, I put it in writing. Read it through and then take it down. And if you see something like when you're writing it down or whatnot, you don't understand, shoot me a question and I'll try my best to quickly talk it through. All right? 5 minutes and we will move on. Done. So I have one question. Protein synthesis. Remember I told you all proteins are very, very, very important, right? And that the ribosomes make proteins. I mentioned that. So I guess the problem is the word synthesis. Synthesis is just a fancy word for making, you know? So you could be you could technically replace the word synthesis with the word making. So I can read it back like this: a tiny organelle where protein making occurs. Right? So don't let the word synthesis get to you. That just means making. But that's a scientific word for it. And if you saw the word semi-permeable, semi-permeable just means you have a barrier with small holes in it, right? Semi-permeable means something with holes in it. Like if you take a balloon and take a pin and you make a whole set of small holes in the balloon, that balloon is semi-permeable. It just means it has a whole set of small holes in it. All right, guys, 1 more minute and we're moving on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the mitochondria. Now, from the note that you just took down there, right? Remember the mitochondria, it lives inside of the cell, and the mitochondria makes energy. Without mitochondria, you will not have any energy right now. Now, the fancy word for making energy is respiration. Respiration just means how it makes energy, right? You're realizing in science, there's a fancy word for everything, all right? So how does the mitochondria make energy? Well, to do it, like to make bread, and you need certain ingredients at the beginning. Let me just say you want to open a bakery, and the first day you wanted to sell bread. So what ingredients would you get? Well, what are the two major ingredients to make bread? Flour. Right, the two main things would be what? To me, I know it have plenty things here is put in bread, like flour, yeast, oh God, I don't think I ever really make bread, no? A sugar, butter. That's how I say buffer, right? Water. All right. So the two main things, I just saying the two main things for me would be flour and yeast. Let's just keep it simple, right? Flour and yeast. Well, to make energy, you need some ingredients at the beginning. The two ingredients you need are oxygen and glucose. In case you all don't know what glucose is a type of sugar. Let me break that down a little bit better. The word sugar. Whenever a normal person says sugar, you are obviously going to think about the sugar that you put in your coffee and your tea, or the sugar that's in sweet drinks and whatnot. Fine, that is true. But there are many, many different types of sugar. You know? There are, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure there are hundreds of different types of sugar. Anybody knows the scientific name for the type of sugar you find in the kitchen? Well, what's a scientific name for the sugar that you put in tea and coffee and whatnot? And that's on the syllabus. You need to know it. What's a scientific name for that type of sugar? Not glucose. It's not glucose. It's not glucose. It's, oops, sorry. It's sucrose. But I know you're not going to change your language now. You're not going to go into the kitchen later or tomorrow and say, hey, mom, dad, you have any sucrose to put in my coffee? They're just going to look at you like you're a weirdo, right? But that's the scientific name for that type of sugar. It's like a dog. There are many different types of dogs. Rottweilers, pit bulls, hot dogs, and so on. Okay? There are many different types of sugars. I'll give you a few that I can memorize. It have one called sucrose. It have one called maltose. It have one called fructose, right? And there's one called glucose, right? Which is this guy. Have you all ever, for those who have an idea, or who have heard me talk already, which part in your house you can find fructose, that particular type of sugar? Well, we know where to find sucrose. That's the normal white, grainy sugar. Right. Well, a lot of people will say fruits, but it's not just fruits. It's a specific fruit under certain conditions. How much of you all have ever open a banana? Well, not open, you don't open a banana. You peel a banana, and you open a banana. You ever peel a banana and it's too ripe? So the banana is no longer white. It is have this kind of brownish look on it, a kind of brownish goo on it. Well, when it ripe too much, that's called fructose. That brownish goo is actually very, very sweet. I know you all don't like to eat it, right? But that brownish goo is very, very sweet. And it's a different type of sugar. It's different from sucrose. It's called fructose. So you just have to know that glucose is just a different type of sugar. And here's the thing. Whenever you eat things like sucrose or other types of sugars, or you eat carbohydrates, we'll get to this just now, your body will take all of those things and break it down into glucose. Glucose is the sugar that is needed for respiration. So to make this story short, right? Your body will take oxygen and glucose, and these two things will go into the mitochondria. So the mitochondria come like a baking oven. It will bake the oxygen and glucose together. And guess what it will get? It will get four things. It will produce carbon dioxide, water, energy, and heat. So you get four things. But the point is, you get what? Energy. Another name for this energy, right? The scientific name for the energy, right, is called adenosine triphosphate, better known as ATP. Like I said, in science, there's a fancy name for everything. Quick question. The mitochondria, how I say, performs the process of respiration and it creates four things. Are all four things good, or are some of it bad, and some of it good? Some are bad and some are good. Believe it or not, right? Let me just I'll put X's but and ticks by the good one and the bad ones. The carbon dioxide is bad because your body cannot use carbon dioxide. Water is actually considered bad, right? I know what you're thinking. Water's supposed to be good, but water is actually something kind of bad, right? In this particular case, because the water created from respiration actually ends up in your lungs. Now, water is good, right? Except when it's in your lungs. When you have too much water in your lungs, you what? Die, okay? The heat is kind of up in the air. The heat could be good or it could be what? Bad. Because the heat keeps you warm, right? But if you have too much heat, you get a fever, right? And you don't want that. But the energy is definitely good. So this here is the equation. Glucose plus oxygen will give you what? Carbon dioxide, water, energy, and heat. And remember, energy is also called ATP. You don't know which one the examiner is going to use in the exam. A quick question. If your body needs oxygen and glucose, where do you get the oxygen from? It's not even a trick question, a real simple question for 1 mark. Where does your body get oxygen from to put into the mitochondria? And your lungs, right? You breathe it in, right? Every time you breathe in, you are pulling in oxygen, and your body has a way of extracting the oxygen from the atmosphere once it reaches inside your lungs. And where does your body get the glucose from? From food. Every time you eat bananas, apples, bread, your body's digestive system will break down the food, certain types of food, and extract the glucose from it, or break down the food into glucose, right? By the way, you can buy glucose in the supermarket by itself. Which I don't recommend. Right? Sugar is already bad for everybody. There's no sense in going buying glucose, which is even a more potent form of sugar. But they do sell it in the grocery, right? It's also white like sugar. But if you feel it, it feels a little bit different from sugar. Sugar does feel grainy. Glucose does feel like a powder, not a green. I want you to take down everything on the screen, please. Let me know when you are finished. And I want you to draw the diagram as well. Right, just to answer one question. The previous diagram, right? That was this diagram. It's not to be drawn in your homework book. It's to be drawn in your normal class book. At the end of class, I will give you some official homework to do. That will go in the new notebook. All right, so we continue our little adventure here. Your next stop is what? I should probably use words I can pronounce here. Your next stop is Cumberland River in St. Vincent. Where do you want to look for treasure? Choose an area and let's see if you get lucky. You want to go in the yellow area, that's the coconut tree. You want to search rocks, the ocean, or the blue rocks to the right-hand side of the screen. All right, good luck. The green is another blue fish. So some people might have two blue fish now. The red is a spotted fish. Well, you get a coconut in the yellow one. And those who chose blue, you got nothing. So write down exactly what you got Let's move on. Somebody get nothing twice in a row. All right, so let's see what's going on with the albatross here, but I think I explained this one already. Hey, Jimmy, how does our body know how to build itself? Like, how does it know if to create blue eyes or a big nose like yours? First of all, my nose is perfect, says Jimmy, and I am super handsome. I answered, to answer your question, nobody knows. It's a mystery. All right, so Jimmy is talking nonsense again. Who can refresh my memory of what part of the body, what part inside our body is responsible for creating us, like that has the instructions to create us? No, right? But we mentioned it a few minutes ago, right? It's our DNA. Right now, I know some people will say, instead of saying, for those who got it wrong, you all remember that, right? Remember, inside your nucleus, which is an organelle, living inside of the nucleus is this thing called DNA. And of course, in the notes before, you would see I would have said DNA, right? Or chromosomes. Now, there is a slight difference between DNA and chromosomes. For the time being, I will accept any answer. DNA and chromosomes is a complete entire chapter by itself. We're not ready to go there yet. But let's just keep today's answer simple, okay? DNA, also for the time being called chromosomes, are responsible for the blueprints that make us. And it lives inside of the nucleus of the cell, right? You don't need to take down anything here. This is just like a revision question to see if you were paying attention later on. Okay, earlier on, sorry. Right, now a very, very popular type of question is to be able to draw very, like to know the difference between a virus and the difference between a virus and a bacteria. The examiner loves to how you say, I forget the word I'm looking for, right? But to ask these questions. Just to let you know, there are many different types of virus. Not all virus will look the same, just like how not all dogs look the same. And not all bacteria will look the same. Quick revision question. Out of a virus and a bacteria, which one is considered not alive? Between a virus and a bacteria, which one is considered to be not alive? The virus, correct? You all remembered. So this first, by the way, this here is a virus, a diagram of one virus, and the other one is called what? A bacteria. Now you can clearly see from the diagram, they look completely different. One of them looks like a creepy alien spider creature, and the other one looks like a rectangle with a tail, right? So let us go through. I'm not going to ask you to draw this now. This will definitely be a screenshot and draw in this notebook type of exercise. The major difference between the two of them is the bacteria is alive and the virus is not alive. Bacteria can actually reproduce on its own, right? For a bacteria to make a copy of itself, it doesn't need anybody help. What bacteria usually do, if you have a bacteria, the bacteria will just split into two. Don't worry, there's an entire chapter when I'm teaching dedicated to how bacteria split into two. And once a bacteria splits into two, each split can then split into another two, right? But bacteria doesn't need any help to do that. A virus, for a virus to reproduce, a virus cannot do it on its own, you know. what a virus needs to do, it needs to invade a host. It needs to invade another organism. In fact, if a virus doesn't find another organism in time and invade it, it will die. So to keep it short, a virus cannot reproduce on its own. It needs the help of a host, right? And usually, in general, a virus is smaller than a bacteria, right? Another major difference, right? You all remember just in a normal cell, right? I just want to point out something about bacteria, but we'll pay attention. We'll go into more detail later on, right? In a normal cell, you all remember it have this thing called a nucleus. We just mentioned it, right? We have this thing called a nucleus. Anybody can remember what lives inside of the nucleus? It's not a trick question. Let's say I have an animal cell and this is the nucleus. What lives inside of the nucleus? The DNA, correct. The DNA will live inside of the nucleus. So can the DNA leave the nucleus? The answer is no. The DNA lives inside of the nucleus and he's like a hostage. He cannot leave the nucleus. However, in bacteria, right, a bacteria doesn't have a nucleus. Look at it. Nowhere in this diagram you're going to see a nucleus. So that's one strange thing about a bacteria cell. It doesn't really have a nucleus, but it does have DNA, right? And they usually call it plasmid DNA, but it's not with plasmid. That little thing I spelled it wrong there, right? You all will notice that the DNA roams freely about the bacteria. There's no nucleus to hold it hostage. All right? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take down the note. Don't draw the diagram as yet. I want you to take down this note, leave a space to draw the bacteria, and then take down this note and leave a space in your books to draw the bacteria. So I think I said bacteria by mistake twice. Sorry. Take down both notes and leave spaces to draw the virus and the bacteria. Let me know when you are finished, right? And of course, you can take a screenshot after, or you can wait for the recording to come out. All right, so we have a small break there again. All right, so let's see what we're going to. I can't pronounce. I don't know why I'm choosing words I can't pronounce. You make on last stop. Oh, see, drama here is terrible. To laugh. I can only have to laugh in St. Vincent before you depart for St. Kitts. Choose an area to look for treasure. Yellow, green, red, or blue. And the class is mixed. Can't really say there's a favorite color in class right now. Right? If you get 3 nothings in a row, today is not your day. All right. Let's see what the correcting. Well, there's no correct choice really. Oh, there are 2 things with nothing. Only the green and the yellow had treasure or something useful. Write down what you got, guys. Write down what you got. Seeing some very disappointed comments here. All right, let's move on. All right, so here we have no green on here. All right, it's time to take Sergeant Gibby's quiz of death. Lace up those boots, soldier. Today, pain will be your friend because pain lets you know you are still alive. All right, let's see what Sergeant Jibby has in store for us here. All right, question 1. Let's see how much you guys can get correct here. You don't have to take down anything here. This is just for, let's just talk through some stuff here. Which of the following cell structures is present in both plant and animals, but functions differently in plants? All right. So you're looking for something that's the same between a plant cell and an animal cell. These questions are pretty like how you say a CXC level questions, huh? So it will make you think a little bit more. Some of them you just might write out, not know the answer, right? Now you can use process. You can get this one out by let's call it systematic elimination, right? The process of elimination. Which of the following cell structures is present in both plant and animal cells? So I wonder why that's up. Do plants and animals have a chloroplast? Yes or no? Do plants and animals have a chloroplast? No, right? Only a plant cell has what? Chloroplast. Remember, if you look back in your notes, right? Chloroplast holds chlorophyll. Only plants have this. So this one is definitely out. Okay? So he is out. However, I'll put P for plants and A for animals, right? Both plants and animals have a cell membrane. Both plants and animals have a mitochondria, and both plants and animals have a vacuole, right? Tell me something. Does the cell membrane do the same function in a plant and animal cell? Yes or no? Does the cell membrane do the same thing in a plant and animal cell? The answer is yes. Remember, the cell membrane is the dashed thing. He allows things to go in and go out. It doesn't matter if it's a plant or animal cell. That's the security system of the cell. Mitochondria produces energy. No matter what, it produces energy in both of them. So he cannot be the answer. The answer has to be what? The vacuole. For those who get it correct, take down $5. Just write down $5. Okay? Now, I have a little diagram here. Don't worry. Both the plant and animal cell have the same function, right? Look at the vacuoles, right? In an animal cell, the vacuoles are small. We mentioned that. But in a plant cell, the vacuoles are large. But both of them are still what? Vacuoles. They function a little bit different in each cell, right? This here is the detailed explanation for it. In an animal cell, the vacuoles, this is what they mainly do. They help maintain cell structure by creating a turgid pressure. I think I mixed it up here, guys. I mixed it up just now. Oops. 1 second, guys. I have it wrong side. This supposed to be here, and this one's supposed to be here. How embarrassing. Okay, let me give me a few seconds just to clear up something here. I can't remember if I did that on purpose or not. Right. In an animal cell, right, the vacuoles are very, very small. And their main function is to store waste and other small molecules, right? So that is what the animal cell, the vacuoles in an animal cell does. That's a major responsibilities. However, in a plant cell, this here helps maintain the shape of the cell. It's so large, it gives that shape to the plant cell. But it also stores waste products sometimes and some pigments, and it also helps with water balance. So the vacuole in a plant cell, while it has some similarities to the animal cell, it has extra responsibilities assigned to it. So its function in the plant and animal cell are not 100% the same. They have slight differences. I want everyone to take down the question, the answer, which is the vacuole, obviously. The answer is D. And I want you to take down the reason for it. Now, when you're drawing the plant and animal cell, you're not drawing detail. You're just drawing a circle here. You're calling it the animal cell. Then draw a rectangle here, call it the plant cell. And take down the reasons as well. Let me know when you are finished.